Hello and welcome back, Squirrel Nation. I hope you're all having an outstanding day. Today we are going to discuss the Fortune Teller patch. There's going to be three parts. First, we're going to go through the changes. Second, I'm going to discuss how I think those changes will impact the meta. And third, I will talk about my experience since the patch has dropped on ladder and what I'm seeing in patterns, trends, etc. So anyways, let's go through the different changes. So first one, they're adding the Fortune Teller. Fortune Teller can basically make two pieces unkillable. That is his ultimate, and then he also allows you to take less damage when you lose. So you take 20% less damage when you lose a round. So that is really big on lose streaking, and we will discuss that more in the second part of the video. Blight Sorcerer was removed. That's basically a nerf to 6 mages again, because now 6 mages is even harder than it was before. So 6 mages to me is basically non-existent at this point because you would have to hit a Zeus. It's actually an indirect buff to Divinity, because Divinity, now there's less legendary heroes, which means that you are more likely to hit your God of War. I guess you can count it as a buff to goblins also, who have to hit a Devastator. So any comp that needed to hit a legendary, the removal of Blight Sorcerer is a buff to them. Okay, on to the next things. New fantasy modes. These things I don't really care about discussing that much. They're just quality of life type of stuff. Some things I want to discuss in the optimizations that are very interesting. One, they switched the stars again. I really don't like the switched version because it doesn't show you the enemy stars. So now you have to be able to recognize the character models to understand what star they're at. I really don't like that. Something they did add that I really do enjoy is they added bars for health, and I believe every bar is 250 health. So for instance, a Ripper at level 1, you'll see 3 bars with a little extra, and that means that Ripper has 800 health. Another thing they added that I really like is at the bottom of the mana bar, so you have a green bar, a blue bar, and then now you'll see this little white bar running across the bottom of the mana, and that's actually the cooldown. So you can actually see how long it is until a hero's cooldown renews, and then it can cast its ultimate again. So I think that's an outstanding add. I love that they made that something visual. Two other things that I think are really impactful is they show the gold value on the left side of the screen now. And sorry, not gold value. They show the amount of gold that a player has, and they show the the player's level. The reason I think these are really nice additions is because it makes scouting a little bit more efficient. So before I had to bring up the stats window, and then I had to go and look at everybody's gold, look at everybody's level, and it was just it's just a little time consuming. Now I can just be looking at gold levels. I can be looking at players' levels at the same time. I think this opens up the people understanding win streaking, lose streaking, different economy, tempo plays. So I really like that because it takes the skill away from scouting, and it starts bringing the skill. So now I can focus my attention on how to play at a better tempo, how to keep up or with what the enemies are doing instead of just looking for the information itself. So I just like that. The opponent's information at the beginning of the round, minimal. I don't really care. It just tells you your win and loss record versus them. To me, that's unimportant. Let's see. Optimizing rank up doesn't really matter. The following doesn't really matter. The bug fixes are obviously nice. The leaderboard, and there's one last thing that I wanted to discuss, and I probably skipped over it, but the thing that I want to discuss is they show you how much health you lose at the end of the round, and they explain, like, this hero did 1 damage to you, this hero did 2, this summon pet did 1. So I really like that change. It flashes on and off, and it's kind of quick, so it's hard to really look at accurately until you get used to it, but once you get used to it, it's really nice. It lets you know. So for experienced players, it doesn't really matter, but for people new to the game coming in, I think it's a great add because it's going to make it a lot easier for people to understand how the health works every round. Okay, item adjustments. Now we're starting to get into the interesting stuff. I love what they did with items, right? A lot of us have had issues with items. They're simplifying the items, so they're taking away a lot of items, and they're making the comment on this track is they're removing the luck aspect from when you get an item. So let me give you an 100% mana regen, or I could get an elf headdress, which only gave me 50, right? So then it's like, okay, I got a mana item, but I was unlucky and got the worst mana item. So they're basically eliminating that, because now you only can get the 1 mana regen item. Same thing with armor. You can't get the 5 armor item or the 10 armor item. The 5 armor item is actually combined into the 10 armor item. So I really like that. It's removing a little luck out of the items. And another thing that I've noticed in my games, I'm combining items a lot more. So much more often in my games, I have the ability to actually combine into those tier 2, tier 3 items. So I really like that. Okay, on to the balance changes. So warriors are ranked number 1. I don't think that's surprising. We all knew that like warrior beast was pretty OP, and it was definitely going to get nerfed. So anyways, they nerfed werewolf. His summoned wolves will do less damage, so that's good. They adjusted pirate captain's armor values, which is interesting. So from 10 to 8. That is definitely good too, because Pirate Captain is a crucial piece in any warrior comp, and just making him a little easier to kill, I think, is a nice nerf, but it's not too crazy. Knights, they reverted their changes from last patch. It's back to a 30% chance to get the shield when you have 6 knights, so I think that's good. Knights were not a top tier synergy. I think they got too weak from taking the hit to their 6 knight synergy, so I like that they're reverting that back. Tortola Elder, you can tell this is a piece they struggle with because they're having to try to tweak it every single patch, but I do like the direction they're going. They are reducing the charge speed from 3 seconds to 2, so that's a huge buff, and then they are reducing the damage. I honestly think they could have left the damage the same. To me, this is the thing. You can't run 6 mages now. It's way too inconsistent because of the other changes they made, and Tortola Elder is not something that I would mix in as my 3rd one anyways. Or it's very, very rare that I would mix them in. Normally it's Source, Thunder Spirit for sure, and then when you're doing all your divinity and different stuff like that, you'd honestly prefer your Baby Dragon, because you can't use Tortola Elder. So really the only comps that you're going to use Tortola Elder in are a 3 mage, not divinity, which is not strong, so I don't really see why they need to nerf his damage, but they did. Hey, whatever. Ripper gets an armor buff, so he's even a better unit early game. I already think he was like top tier. I always picked him up if I had opportunity to get him, because you have the goblin synergy early game. You can pair him with divinity, and he can just easily get you on a win streak, and they buffed him, so even more so. So Ripper is a must pick up early game. If you see a Ripper and you don't pick him up, I don't know what to say to you. Venom, I like these type of changes. So Venom, basically he will target his ultimate, for those who do not know, slows the attack speed of the person who he hits with his ultimate. So I love the fact that they are making him attack, or making his ult target the person with the highest attack speed. And really by highest attack speed, they mean the lowest. So like, for instance, if you have a hero with a 1.2 attack speed and you have a hero with a 0.9 attack speed, the Venom will ult the 0.9 attack speed. So that's really good, especially when you run Venom against marksman comps, because a lot of those marksmen have really short auto attacks, the time between their auto attacks. So I think that's great. That makes Venom more useful. It adds utility. Tsunami Stalker nerf from 2 second stun to 1.5 second. The comps that ran him, I mean, I guess they saw a reason it was needed. To me, I don't think it was really needed, because he's used in comps, he's used to counter mages, but I've never, like, if I'm running divinity, I would prefer a 2-star Siren to a 1-star Tsunami Stalker. So I guess maybe they just wanted to make a 1-star Tsunami Stalker a little less viable than, but I don't know. That one's kind of weird to me. Adjust the target. Okay, so Siren on her ultimate, before you turn to stone, it actually slows your attack speed, so they're nerfing that portion of the ultimate. I think that's fine. Siren is a super strong unit, so it does make sense to bring things in line. It's kind of weird to me that they're nerfing Tsunami Stalker and Siren in one patch, because those are your anti-mage units. So if you think about this, they're nerfing mages, right? They've removed our Ogre Mage last patch, they're removing Blight Sorcerer, right? They're messing around with Tortola Elder, And then for some reason they're also nerfing the mage counters, so I don't know. Like, to me, it's just kind of confusing in terms of where Drodo is trying to go with these changes. Finally, the dwarf change I absolutely love. I think this actually could make hunters viable. The reason for it is this, okay? Your issue in a hunter comp is they are going to target the front line first, always. Like, hunter comps don't have a way to damage the enemy backline, okay? So people's solution to that tends to be you mix in some sort of AoE. Like, you will see people mix in Soul Reapers, you'll see people mix in Storm Shamans, you'll see them mix in Dark Spirits, right? So they can get damage on the back line. So now what I love about the Dwarf Sniper change is if you think at the beginning of a fight, the lowest HP unit can be the enemy backline. It won't be their front line. So the Dwarf will automatically just start targeting the backline heroes. So I think that is really, really good. And I think it's going to make, one, hunters viable, and two, I think it's going to make Dwarf a mandatory hunter. Okay, on to the final part of the video, and that will be me discussing how I see the meta changing and what I've been seeing on ladder. So let's start with Fortune Teller. How does he impact the meta? So Fortune Teller does a few things. One, he enables people to lose streak more consistently. So I really enjoy lose streaking if I can't win. A win streak's always better, but you've all seen in health and economy. So lose streaking has been made much easier with the addition of Fortune Teller, and I'll give you one example of why. Now it's very easy for me to ride a 3 gold lose streak all the way to round 15, so all the way to the Wolves, and still be at 50 health. That was impossible before. If you tried to do that before, you probably were going to be somewhere between like 20 and 30 health. So it's pretty crazy how much better or more consistent the Fortune Teller can make lose streaking players. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Test out lose streaking. If it's not an econ strategy that you have in your kit, I would definitely recommend you practicing it. Okay, next thing. What type of comps does Fortune Teller go into? He goes into Glacier. He makes it more consistent because you can get your 4 Glacier, and then later on you can switch out like your Frost Knight, and then you have this Fortune Teller utility unit who is going to help you stay alive longer with that crazy attack speed. So I've seen a lot of Glacier comps using him, and I have also seen a lot of Divinity comps. He works very well in Divinity because Divinities want to burst you, and the ways that Divinity players tend to lose is assassins, and Fortune Teller, if he can take the assassin aggro and he can make your key pieces unkillable, himself included, then it slows down the assassin from killing players long enough for the divinity to kill the mages first. So I think he actually he's showing to be a good assassin counter in divinity comps. I will stipulate that if you fall way behind in stars, so they have tons of 3 stars and you don't have any, then he's still not going to help you. But at equivalent levels, Fortune Teller definitely helps divinity comps perform better against assassins. Okay, so that's that. So the other thing is on to mages. 6 mages were already not really viable. Nothing's changed. I don't think any of the changes on that, they just make it even less viable. But the big change is removing Blight Sorcerer does make the chance of you getting your God of Thunder higher, so I would say that is a buff to Divinity. The Warriors, the scale back, I have seen less Warriors. They're still a useful synergy. They're still good units. They're just not like they were in the last patch. If you built them, you will lose to certain things. So finally, for the remainder of this video, I'm going to discuss what I see happening out of the meta. And it's this. Right now, you have, I don't actually break it down into team comps, I break it down into tempos, okay? Or styles of teams. So you have aggressive styles who are going for early kills. They want to be powerful early, and they want to punish players who are trying to build the ultimate comp, right? The ultimate comp are like those divinity players where we've all played against a divinity, they get their God of Thunder, and they're unkillable. Nobody's going to beat them, right? So the problem for divinity players like that is they need time to build up, okay? So that's what I mean by like these slow comps, these unkillable late game god comps, versus your early game, and let's say assassins are a great example. Your assassins can just start winning early and often get on crazy win streaks, get their stars up, and just stomp people before they get into that unkillable thing. And anyways, what I see out of the meta in these last days is that is the meta. You're either going to be a player who goes for assassins to punish all the people in the game trying to go for these slow comps, or you're going to go for the slow comp, defend your health pool against these assassin or against these aggressive players until you can get to that unbeatable point and then just stomp them for the rest of the game. How Glacier fits into this is interesting, because the fact that you can now hit Glacier synergy without having your Berserker does help it be much more consistent, and Glacier is actually something like Assassins that's really good early. It's still good late, but it's really, really powerful early before people have got all their synergies online, and then the Fortune Teller can also make it much, much easier for a Glacier player to lose streak. So before, for lose streaking, I would basically lose streak into some sort of Feather Druid type of thing, maybe Assassins, or I would lose streak into Divinity, but now I think you can actually lose streak into Glaciers. So I think that's basically my thoughts, but for all of you out there, what I would experiment with if I was you is experiment with aggressive team comps like Assassins, some Glacier stuff, and then experiment with your super late game power with your Divinity, your standard Divinity, mix in your Fortune Teller, have some fun with it. But that is where I see the meta going. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. Take care, and I will see you all tomorrow.